The first steel coaster opened in 18 rickety-dickety-doo, built by miners looking for a joyride through the coal mines. No, that's not quite right, or even right at all.
But you can imagine what it'd be like if they did, right? Huh? Woo-wee!
Anyway, RCDB has the first steel coaster opening in 1885 at a park in New York, and over time, it just kept getting better. I mean, look at this inverted coaster that was in California back in 1902. After making my will and settling the score with all my enemies, I would totally ride this. It all led up to 1959, when Aerodynamics made the first tubular steel coaster in Matterhorn at Disneyland, and that blew the roof off the possibilities of the steel coaster. There have been almost 10,000 produced worldwide. Pretty sure between Taylor Bybee, Rob Alvey, and Fabio, they've ridden all of them, but only a select few found the need to announce the material it's made out of in its name. Yes, it's made of steel. Everyone knew that. Nobody thought it was made of pretzels, but thanks for pointing that out. Today, let's celebrate those who celebrate the obvious. This is steel versus steel versus steel versus... Quick, you still have time. Get out while you still can. There are 19 coasters that currently have steel in their name, or had steel in their name when they shut down. But let's point out the two that made a change, for better or worse. Steel Venom at Geauga Lake might be the most renamed coaster I've ever seen. It was once known as Superman Ultimate Flight, but Cedar Fair couldn't use that name, so they went with Steel Venom, ripping off the name of another coaster we'll talk about later. Cedar Fair then unceremoniously axed this park, harvested it for its parts, and sent Steel Venom to Dorney Park, where it became known as Voodoo for a whole year, then renamed Possessed. So, why the change? Of course, the cause of all of life's problems, Six Flags. They trademarked the name Voodoo, and then they sued Cedar Fair over the coaster they used to own. Cedar Fair ended this daytime TV drama by just changing the name, who cares? In 1999 and 2000, Six Flags opened 3 Intamin Hypers called Superman Ride of Steel, an awesome spin on Superman being the Man of Steel. But in 2009, Six Flags decided to spend a lot of money for no reason and repaint and retheme the one at New England to Bizarro. 7 years later, they abandoned this theme and went back to Superman, this time using the much lamer name, Superman the Ride. You know, because if it wasn't obvious enough that it was made of steel, it's even more obvious that this is, in fact, a ride. See, I thought it was a zoo. Turns out it's just a ride. Number 19 is Steel Turns at Cosmic in Russia. This may be a tiny booster wheel SBF kids coaster, located inside a family fun center. And turns out, this closed in 2020, so that's too bad. But you can see why they call it Steel Turns. It literally has 2 big steel turns. They're very literal there in Russia. But here's my problem. This little coaster actually has theming. You got these mountains with crystals sticking out of them. You'd think you'd name it something related to that. But no, gotta be those steel turns. Number 18 is Steel First at Dorney Park. This very basic oval kids coaster opened in 1986 as Colossus Jr. This made sense. They had a Schwarzkopf looper called Colossus. Then that changes name to Laser, so naturally, this becomes Little Laser. It even has those awesome loops on either side of the track. That's some stellar kiddie coaster theming. Then, Laser decides it's gonna check out, not caring at all that there's another coaster in the park that's relying on it. So this kiddie coaster, being a follower and not a leader, finds a new mentor in Steel Force and spins that name into Steel First. Like it's the kids' first coaster. That lasted a grand total of 2 years before the park realized they didn't need 2 kiddie coasters, and goodbye. Number 17 is Hanoi Steel Dragon at Ho Tay Theme Park in Vietnam. You can still ride this relocated Micho corkscrew to this day. You just gotta get to Vietnam, which sounds easy. Personally, I'm intrigued by that first drop. It looks like the exact angle of the lift hill, rivaling Goliath at Magic Mountain for the world's most shallow first drop. Number 16 is Steel Stella at Clacton Pier in the UK. Well, safe to say, this is the oldest coaster on the list, opening in 1937. And how do I put this? Okay, the structure is made of steel, but this was a side friction wooden coaster, kind of like Leap the Dips.
Yes, and you call them
Steel.
Despite the fact they are obviously
Wood. Maybe they thought the steel would make it stronger, or make it hold up better, being right on the North Sea. But in the end, just like Skinner's house, it was destroyed by fire. Number 15 is Steel Lasso at Frontier City. Go ahead. You want to make fun of me that Steel Lasso is the newest legit coaster this park has? You don't think I'm not already dead inside for having this as my home park? A park that hasn't gotten anything legit in 3 decades? You ever tried to lasso an animal with steel? It doesn't work. All of my personal insecurities aside, this is a nice, smooth family coaster and every park can use one. Number 14 is Steel Dragon 2004 at Waldameer. The mid-2000s were exciting at Waldameer. They got this, then they got Ravine Flyer 2, and suddenly this place became a destination. It was at that point they said, yeah, we're good. We'll give you an SBF spinner in a dozen years and call it a century. Steel Dragon 2004 is a typical Maurer spinner clone. It's fun, it has a long line. Ride it once and get back to Ravine Flyer 2. Number 13 is Steel Venom at Valley Fair. Here's the OG Steel Venom, not like that imposter at Jogga Lake. Seriously, Cedar Fair, they're usually good at not reusing names and putting one iota of effort into their branding. Outside their kids area, of course. Please, no more Woodstock Expresses. This came to Valley Fair in 2003 and it was put in the parking lot and it looks like a giant steel snake. Snakes have venom. Venom makes you sick. This ride makes some people sick. That's the only theming you're gonna get on this ride. Number 12 is Steel Hog at Indiana Beach. This SNS El Loco is themed after a hog, one of those nasty pigs. I don't really know why, but if you want, look up hog in the Urban Dictionary. Or better yet, don't. This is an awesome ride, even with the stupid shoulder pads. It has some sharp angles and whippy moments, so don't forget about it in the back corner of the park. Number 11 is Steel Phantom at Kennywood. When this opened in 1991, I'm not sure what Arrow or Kennywood were thinking. A 225-foot drop, 85 miles per hour, and if anyone's still conscious by the end of the ride, throw in 4 inversions to finish them off. No surprise, by 2000 the ride became unbearable, and the park brought in D.H. Morgan to make some changes. Sure, they got rid of the shoulder restraints. Sure, they got rid of the inversions. Sure, they got rid of the brutality. But the most important thing they got rid of was the steel in the name, now known as Phantom's Revenge and one of the great coasters out there. But Kennywood just couldn't quit the steel name, and it was steel that got its revenge 19 years later. Number 10 is Steel Curtain at Kennywood. People who don't know football probably saw the name and thought, why would they name their ride after a curtain? Like a shower curtain. That's stupid. You're not wrong, but the name comes from the team the ride's named after, the Pittsburgh Steelers. And in the 1970s, their defensive line was called the Steel Curtain, a reference to the Iron Curtain that divided the communist Eastern Europe and Western Europe at the time. Taking the theme even deeper, the ride's layout is themed to this year's Pittsburgh Steelers. I don't know how they knew in 2019 to theme it to the 2022 Steelers, but they nailed it. It's kinda shaky. This team only won 3 of the first 10 games. It has 9 inversions, or turnovers if you will, and the Steelers are among the best in football at giving the ball away. And finally, the ride is kinda boring, just like this team that has a rookie quarterback and doesn't score that many points. So great job SNS and Kennywood for having that kind of foresight. For the sake of the coaster, I hope the Steelers get better soon. Number 9 is Steel Force at Dorney Park. First, I love how Cedar Fair just recycled their Banshee logo for Steel Force. This was supposed to be used on the coaster that turned out to be Mantis. So they figured, hey, Steel Force doesn't really mean anything. Let's give them some steel hands and call it a day. My biggest problem with this Morgan Hyper is false advertising. The name implies the ride has force. It does not. Number 8 is Steel Taipan at Dreamworld in Australia. I said it in my Viper video and I'll say it again. You want to go with a scary snake, pick the one that has the most venom. Australia gets it. They know more about this stuff than anyone. That being said, the Black Mamba can kill you the fastest. So, Fantasialand, you win the internet for today. I'm just gonna need it back by tomorrow. Steel Taipan is a mock rides launch coaster that opened late last year. It has a multi-pass launch and a spinning back car. It's basically Blue Flyer at Europa Park, just with a swing launch. Number 7 is Steel Dolphin at Shanghai Haicheng Ocean Park in China. Not to be confused with Thunder Dolphin. Steel Dolphin is another Intamin, this one being a blitz coaster built in 2018. It's got a top hat, a great setting, no inversions. But look at that, no harnesses, just lap bars. That's beautiful. But if you want to ride, you have to take a trip into the shark's mouth, and that thing is strung out. Making these videos, I learn a lot about different things. From snakes, to dolphins, to just how bad the Steelers are this year. And apparently, dolphins are good at fighting off shark attacks. This one, however, well, the dolphins stood no chance. I don't know what this guy's on, but what a psycho. Number 6 is Superman Ride of Steel at Six Flags America. For the first time ever, a coaster has officially made it into 2 parody videos. This one also appearing in my Superman video. That's kinda selfish. I guess, if you can cram enough words into your name, you have a chance at making it into more than one video. But then, I gotta think of fresh jokes, and I don't have any. So, Intamin Mega Coaster. Weird layout, straight track, get out of the way. Number 5 is Ride of Steel at Six Flags Darien Lake. It's weird that Six Flags put 3 Intamin Mega Coasters into 3 of their smallest parks, that being New England, America, and Darien Lake. What a different time that was for the company. Now the top tier parks gotta beg for a free spin every 4 years. It seemed too good to be true back then, and turns out it was. Six Flags lost Darien Lake when they were falling apart in 2007, and the park became independent. So when they lost the rights to the Superman name, they just dropped it. Just Ride of Steel. If you know the backstory, it makes sense. If you don't, then you probably think this is a stupid and lazy name. Six Flags took the park over again in 2018, but I guess since they just operate it and don't own it, they can't or won't use the DC branding. So, to this day, you have a ride that's made of steel.
Fact.
The story checks out. Number 4 is Steel Dragon 2000 at Nagashima Spa-Land. 2000, the year of the dragon. Steel, the thing they needed lots of to guard against earthquakes. Plus, it has over 8,000 feet of track, and that just seems unnecessary. In this case, for a coaster that no doubt used more steel than any other coaster in the world, and it's probably not remotely close, I give it a pass. Steel belongs in the name. Number 3 is Steel Eel at SeaWorld San Antonio. I guess this one works. This is SeaWorld. Eels are sea creatures. They're long and windy, just like this Morgan Mini Hyper. And it rhymes. Steel Eel. Take the steel out and it just sounds weird. Hey, let's go ride eel. Nah, that doesn't work. Say eel enough and it starts to lose its meaning, so I'm gonna stop. This ride has awesome airtime, and I heard that Steel Dragon 2000 falls short. So that's right, this coaster outranks it, even though it's literally half its size. Number 2 is Medusa Steel Coaster at Six Flags Mexico. You think of lazy RMC names, a couple come to mind. New Texas Giant is awful. Iron Gwazi is stupid. But when Six Flags turned Medusa into a steel coaster, they just described what they were doing.
Fact.
Medusa's Steel Coaster. It was a CCI wooden coaster from 2000. It spent 14 seasons at the park, kept getting rougher, and RMC came to the rescue. It's apparently an upper tier RMC, but I wouldn't know. Number 1 is Steel Vengeance at Cedar Point. I know I gave Steel Eel a pass. It just sounds weird to say eel, but in this case, I think the name Vengeance would work out. It means a punishment exacted for an injury or a wrong. And that makes sense because the old mean streak wronged and injured so many people over its 25 years. But no, the name actually stems from the elaborate backstory about Blackjack and Chess and Digger, and even drags Maverick into the mix, which is kinda messed up. Maverick screwed over all 3 of them and they left Frontier Town, only to come back to seek vengeance with their insane coaster. The one that was supposed to crush Maverick. And kudos to the park, it really does. Vengeance would have been a cool name, but they just had to add the steel in there to show this wasn't a wooden coaster anymore, I guess. Maybe trying to make the point that this isn't the old wooden painful mean streak anymore, so don't be afraid to come back. Steel Vengeance is my number 1 overall coaster. Such a long ride, so much airtime and so much whip. Maybe a little ironic that they have metal detectors in the queue for Steel Vengeance, but I'll let that one go. That's all for the world's steel coasters. Let me know what you think of the list, if you've ridden any of these and which one is your favorite. Before you go, don't forget to drop a like, and if you're new here, please give me a sub. If you like this parody type of video, I have a playlist with more just like this. Also, check out my links below for my Discord server, and my second channel where I post copyright-free off-ride footage, and my baseball channel if you love baseball as much as the Steelers love losing at home to the Jets. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time.